Hello everyone and welcome back to yet another 50 days of my time at Portia. If you haven't already, I would recommend watching the first 50 days as this is a straight continuation from part 1. Anyways, that's it for my intro, so sit back, relax, maybe grab a snack, and without further ado, enjoy the video. Also, I apologize if you can hear the fan in the background sometimes. It is so incredibly warm here right now and I cannot record without this thing. On day 51 I accepted a job from Arlo, who requested a new training dummy, and then I made my way to the town center where I had a chat with May from the Portia Times. They've been hand drawing all of their illustrations for the newspaper and said it was high time to get a camera. As per usual, I asked the ladies from the research center for advice, and lo and behold, Merlin actually had a camera. Thing is, she was only willing to give it to me if I went on a, and I quote, social engagement with her. For this, however, I needed a higher friendship level with her, so you know it, that's something for future me. While there, I made sure to grab the diagram for the training dummy, accepted the first of many Portia bridge commissions, crafted the training dummy by the work table and handed it over to Arlo, who was more than pleased with his new prop. Wednesday morning I figured out that I was able to build the construction crane on a level 2 assembly station after all. For some reason I was under the impression that I needed a level 3 assembly station for that, but what I actually needed was a level 3 work table. Luckily I had made enough golds to upgrade the work table that day, and I believe this was also the last upgrade for this as well. I finished another bridge commission later, which I handed over to Albert, and before going to bed I hung out with Arlo for the first time. You can schedule dates or hangouts once per week, and these are a great way of earning friendship points. There's a handful of different activities that you can do around Portia, like eating at the saloon, hanging around town, using the swing, and you can even go inside the hazardous ruins with not every NPC, but at least with the Civil Corps members, which I'm gonna test out a bit later. By Thursday I was done with the construction crane, and after dropping it off for Albert, he said that he had yet another job for me, but this one was more personal. So Albert has a thing for Ginger, and as we know, Ginger doesn't leave the house very often, so he asked if I could find out more about her, what she likes and what she does. Since it was raining today, Ginger was able to walk around outside, and I spotted her close to the future Portia bridge. She mentioned that one of her hobbies involved reading and that she's been looking for a book called Journey to the East. The only place where I could get that was at the badge exchange inside Django's restaurant. And the way you can obtain badges is by playing and, more importantly, winning the minigames he has to offer, which includes a slot machine, dart, and shooting balloons. I tried a couple of rounds on the slot machine, but I got bored rather quickly, so instead I went ruin diving for the rest of the day. I completed my first ever electric furnace the following morning, which was kind of a waste right now, since I won't be using this for a long time. I spent the day working on the Lara model, a quest that I accepted from Mr. Ag a while ago. I'm not really sure who Lara was, but my guess is that it was his girlfriend. Walking around town, I saw lots and lots of funky looking ghosts floating about for the upcoming festival, and then I spent a few hours inside the wasteland gathering materials for the robo diagram. Once I was back, I upgraded both the iron axe and pickaxe to a fisherman axe and pig. No idea why it's called Fisherman, but this was the next best upgrade available to me. And same as yesterday, I was back in the ruin later. This time I was looking for a racket, since I needed that for the Lara model. I found so many of these before and always ended up selling them, and of course, now, when I actually needed one, I couldn't find it. Moving over to day 55, and I have a little confession to make. I didn't forget to record anything, but sadly I lost the footage for the next 5 days, which is kinda worse now that I think about it. Now, thankfully I don't need to give you a presentation in Canva this time, as the game autosaves the last 20-ish days that you played, so I was able to re-record the footage that I had lost. I had enough friendship points to take Merlin out on a date, and once that was over with, I stayed at the restaurant for a couple of hours and tried my luck on the slot machine again. For once I was actually lucky, and I hit the jackpot, earning me about 500 badges. This allowed me to purchase the book that Ginger wanted, which I handed over to Albert. Since I still hadn't found a racket in the mines, I put the Lara model on hold for now and instead started to work on a few of the bridge pieces. And today is where I finally learned that you can trade stones, which I had thousands of, for wood at Gust's and Albert's shop. Once again, really wish I knew about this sooner, but better late than never. In the evening we celebrated the Day of Memories festival, starting with the traditional ghost hunt. Here you have about 4 minutes to collect as many of these golden coins as possible. While replaying this, I figured out that you can use a mount to run around as well, which felt kinda cheaty, not gonna lie. At midnight we ended the festival with sending off a couple of wishing lanterns, and this was just as cozy as I had it in memory. Probably really bad for the environment, but amazing to look at. Upon checking my mailbox the next day, I received a camera from Merlin. Also, she mentioned that our little social experiment was underwhelming for her, which was so incredibly rude considering that I paid like 80 goals at the restaurant for the food that she wanted. But okay, I'm gonna remember that one. The camera was handed over to May, and with that I had the photo mode unlocked, which is gonna be very handy for creating thumbnails once I'm done with this. Since I finished the crane project for Albert, the museum construction has officially begun. I know I already mentioned this before, but it is so fun to see how the town changes as you advance the story. The mysterious man was back once again, and from him I purchased 2 special giant seeds, as the description read that this is a shoe-in for the Autumn Festival. Now I had to Google what shoe-in means, and according to the Cambridge Dictionary it means someone who is certain to win an election or a competition, and I like the sound of that. For this I had to buy 2 more of the big planter boxes from the church, which made the garden even more cluttered and cramped, but it was a sacrifice that I was willing to make. I finished another bridge commission later that day and enjoyed a beautiful sunset from my workshop before heading to bed. On this rainy first day of fall, I checked the monthly workshop rankings and I came in 2nd place yet again. Better luck next time, I suppose. I finally found a racket inside the abandoned ruins, which allowed me to finish the Lara model for Mr. Ack. Sadly, I don't have any footage of that, since I was still replaying the days at this point, but Mr. Ack told me to simply display the model inside my yard so he can look at her whenever he wanted to. And I really mean whenever he wanted to. Every single day he runs down from the Civil Corps office just to stare at her. Wednesday was very uneventful, so we're jumping over to day 60. My chickens were all grown up by now, which means I had a steady supply of fresh eggs and feathers. Since I didn't really have anything else to do that day, I decided to tackle the final level of the sewage plant. And I just remembered I said earlier that I won't mention this anymore, but here we are. Upon defeating the boss, I was rewarded with a unique pair of gloves, and I love how silly these look. I actually never ended up using these, because they're just so incredibly slow, but I love how all of the unique weapons also have a different moveset. I gifted Arlo a birthday present the next day, and this was enough to reach friend status with him. And if it wasn't obvious by now, I decided to romance him in this playthrough, because Gust was a little too, let's just say, unfriendly for my taste. I did buy the heart knot from Alice later on, but I forgot that I already gifted him a present that day, so that's gonna have to wait a bit. It's been mostly raining ever since fall started, but today was the first time where it was actually nice weather, so I got to enjoy the beautiful autumn colors while riding around. And speaking about beautiful things, on day 62 I witnessed the opening ceremony of our brand new museum. Gail was certain that this would mean more tourists around town, but the thing is, the museum was completely empty. There wasn't a single piece to look at in here. You already know it, that's a job for everyone's favorite builder. Before we take a look at that, I handed Arlo the heart knot, and with that we were officially dating. This also pushed me to good friend status with him, giving me an extra 10% critical chance for my weapons. Now regarding the museum, I've been hoarding a buttload of different relic pieces over the past couple of weeks, so I took every single item with me to the research center and tested out the relic machine for the first time. Despite all of the different relics that I had unlocked, I was only able to reconstruct 3 in total. Yikes. At least I had a couple more fish to donate, which were displayed inside this ginormous aquarium on the second floor. I crafted a bunch of the easy machines on the assembly station as well, like a regular stone furnace, grinder, and so on, though unfortunately not every single crafted item can be displayed inside the museum. With all of that, I was able to donate a total of 10 pieces. This gave me my very own recovery machine as a donation reward. And I'm gonna say it right away, I am not 100%ing the museum collection. I tried to do that on my first playthrough and it is simply way too much work. I do not have the patience for that. On Tuesday morning I wanted to set up the animal trap that I made a while ago. For this, however, I needed cumin and lettuce. The cumin I was able to purchase from Sophie's, but the lettuce I had to cultivate myself. This day was mainly spent socializing in town, doing the usual commission work, and resource gathering. While mining, I reached level 32, and this skill point was put into the Expert Electrician. This increases the damage of the drill and chainsaw, 2 items that I haven't even obtained yet, but I mainly just wanted to unlock the next row of skills. 66 was a grand day as the bridge construction was finally completed. Albert informed me that with the finished bridge, we're ready to move over to phase 2, which was for the tunnel project. The new bridge was looking absolutely majestic. Like, seriously, the wooden one that I made for Amber Island looked puny compared to this one. The people who played Sandrock before are gonna be more than familiar with this new place because now we had access to the Eufaula Desert. There was a lone house located close to the bridge, and this belonged to Siwa, the last Hulu brother that I had yet to meet. I also love how he mentions Sandrock here in this dialogue, because I do think that one of the brothers does eventually move to Sandrock, but I might be misremembering that. A new area meant new resources to collect. Here is where I can find the asteria flowers that I needed a while ago, poplar wood, cactus fruits, desert hoppers, new locations to fish, and so much more. While exploring the desert, I spotted an ominous looking structure in the back, and this turned out to be a new abandoned ruin for ore gathering. A bit later I also found a tunnel entrance, but I could not interact with this at the moment. The following morning we had the bridge opening ceremony, and of course I continued exploring after that. I mounted a second DD stop in the middle of the desert, which was near some sort of old mineshaft. I was able to take the lift down there to further inspect the locale, but again, I was unable to interact with anything here, so I went inside the new ruin instead. Here I can find magnesium and aluminium ore, condensed power stones, and different types of materials for future machines, like this advanced engine. Later on I accepted a little side quest for Arlo, where he wanted us to explore a hidden cave in the desert. This was once again one of those missions that had a very short timer, so I immediately made my way back to the desert where I met up with him. Together we rode all the way to the other side of the area, where eventually we came to an old cave entrance. I didn't expect there to be any enemies inside, and it's fair to say that I was not prepared for this whatsoever. Oh, this place is cozy. I love it. But why are there enemies in here?
Let's just stay here for a while and forget all our troubles.
What about the enemies that I ran past? After running past most of the mobs in here, we came to the end of the cave, where we spotted a beautiful little oasis where we hung around for a bit. Yep, this was actually his romance mission, which I've never seen before. Instead of asking me for a ride home, Arlo thought it was a brilliant idea to walk across the entire desert. Unsurprisingly, this ended very badly for him. Oh my god, he's struggling! Arlo! Wait, this is actually such a good farming strategy. Never mind, I'm sorry Arlo. I have to abandon you, I don't have the stamina for this. I'm sure he's fine. He is a trained Civil Corps member after all. 61 marks the first day of the Land Running Festival. For this, they had to set up 2 different tracks on the map. The closest one was right next to my workshop, where you have to compete against other riders, and the second one is a solo race with a timer. I signed up for the multiplayer race first, where I was up against Django, Mars, and Phyllis. I was pretty decent at riding by now, so this was no trouble at all. Well, almost. Oh. Trees! Later I tried out the solo race, which had a much longer track than the first one, but it was still as enjoyable. Since I had access to new ore types, I was finally able to test out the electric furnace that I made a while ago. This was the first machine that needed the condensed power stones, and it also had a much bigger output than any of the other furnaces. Walking outside my house the next morning, I had Mint waiting for me, who said that they've been having some issues with the tunnel project and asked if I could take a look at it. I'm not really sure why he wanted me to help them, considering that he's the engineer, but okay. Before the event, I finished assembling a fire-powered generator. With this, I could theoretically fuel all of my machines inside the workshop, though for this, however, I needed to connect them with conductive flooring, which I didn't know where to get at first, and I also simply didn't have the space for that right now. The majority of the day was spent participating at the land run, which earned me a total of 110 festival badges. Most of them were exchanged for furniture pieces at the stall, making my house even more cluttered than before. I'm gonna make it nice at some point, promise. On day 70 I got a contract from Dawa, who asked if I could plant some poplar trees around the south block to keep the desert sand away. I had to wait for the actual trees to arrive first, so in the meantime I made my way towards the Ophala tunnel, where I met up with Remington. He didn't want to let me in at first, even after I told him that Mint specifically requested my help. Our conversation was interrupted by an earthquake, causing the other workers to run outside with some top-notch voice acting.
Oh no.
Remington rushed inside the tunnel, and I followed as well. We could hear Arlo, Sam and Mint in the distance, but the entrance was completely blocked off. Arlo mentioned that there might be another way in, which turned out to be the old mineshaft that I spotted a few days prior. Walking inside the abandoned mine, Remington handed me a brand new weapon, a core hammer, and I quickly noticed that this place wasn't so abandoned after all. No. I just didn't miss you guys.
You're fucking sick. You're nothing. You're dirt. Fuck you. Fuck you. You're fucking sick.
The tunnel worms were an absolute nightmare in Sandrock, and it's not any different here in Portia. Luckily, I had a Civil Corps member with me, who unlike myself, has an infinite amount of health. Well, sort of. He does need a little power nap here and there, but otherwise, he's pretty much invincible. This entire expedition was an experience, to say the very least. No, don't go into photo mode! After about 50 minutes of running around, we opened up another passage that led to a mini-boss encounter, and I was having a time. Not a good one. Chief Honcho, yeah, I just wanted to say I was not close to that, but sure, go off. What? Remington, you are so useless! What was that? Remington, I'm just gonna stand over here and never mind. I am mid-dodge! Maybe the hammer is the play here. Let's just not talk about that.
6 hours later.
Okay, that was incredibly easy, and of course I did that on my very first attempt without dying a single time. Yeah, I was a little salty at this point, so let's just skip ahead a bit. Eventually we reached the actual boss of this area, where we also found Mint, Arlo and Sam. Now that the Civil Corps was reunited again, they took care of the boss while I kept a safe distance. Don't judge me, alright? I'm just a builder. This is their job, not mine. This worked like a charm, and not too long after, the robot went down. I think we can all agree that obviously I did the majority of the heavy lifting here. Right, guys? Guys? We skedaddled out of the cave, where we had Gale along with a few of the other townies waiting for us. Arlo said that it was most likely the robot that caused the numerous earthquakes down there, so it should be safe to resume working on the tunnel again. Emphasis on should. Since the in-game timer is paused whenever you're inside a hazardous ruin, I had the whole day to resume my builder business. I stayed inside the desert area to collect poplar wood for Dawa's request, and while doing that, reached level 33, which was put into the Charm Overload skill. This provides a 100% increase of getting rare items from the tree farm and mining deliveries. Now, I was under the impression that this would include gemstones like topaz and sapphire, but no, it's just honey and apples. Not exactly what I was hoping for, but I can sell these for a decent price at least. The lettuce that I had planted a while ago was good for harvesting on Monday morning, and with this I had everything ready to set up the trap box for the llamas. I crafted a few wooden pillars and insulated planter boxes. The pillars were dropped off at Albert's place, and then I accepted a commission from Carol, who requested a new sewing machine from me. She didn't want to give up her old machine right away and asked if I could just fix it, but Petra immediately dismissed it and said I could forget about it as it was totaled. Not really sure how a sewing machine can be totaled, but fine. Once again I had to wait for a new diagram, so in the meantime I went mining inside the desert ruin again. The following day I had Dawa waiting for me outside, who was here to give me the poplar trees for the planter boxes. The Civil Corps informed me about a new hazardous ruin out in the desert, Mint requested a drill from me, and the final letter was for the industrial sewing machine for Carol. Yeah, I had my work cut out for the day. First, I finished a comprehensive grinder that I started on yesterday. It didn't seem that much different from a regular grinder at first, but I noticed later on that this machinery can make the products from ore right away, meaning that it doesn't need any bars, making it way more efficient than a regular grinder. Next up was the drill, which was a lot easier to assemble than I thought it would be. This thing was so massive it needed 3 entire industrial engines to run. Within a couple of minutes I had it fully constructed, and I absolutely loved the design of this, it looks so cool. I dropped off the drill for Mint, who was currently inside the clinic as he suffered from a minor head wound the other day, and lastly I mounted the new trees in the desert. This is to protect the future south block as well as Siva's house from any incoming sandstorms. Now that I've done so many commissions, I finally had enough goals for another yard expansion. I spent the remaining day moving everything around in the workshop and trying to make it look a little bit better. On 74 I had a new offer from Albert, as they needed a water tower and charge station for a new vehicle stop. Before working on that I checked the animal trap, and today it was finally successful. Upon trapping a llama you can proceed to tame it, initiating a minigame, and despite me missing a couple of prompts, I was still able to successfully tame it. While the pink llama was already incredibly adorable, I most certainly wanted to get my hands on a cotton llama at some point as well, though for this I needed something called golden ginseng, which I have not encountered so far. I couldn't decide on a name for this little cutie, so if any of you guys have any suggestions, then feel free to drop a comment down below. Midday I finished the industrial sewing machine for Carol, which I dropped off at her shop shortly after. By now I was getting a decent amount of goals from the regular commissions as well, so much so that I decided to expand my house for the first time. Not only does the building get a lot bigger, but this allows me to place more furniture inside to boost my stats even further, and this also unlocks the marriage option. The house pretty much just doubled in size, so I had to move all of my machines around, which took quite a while. And I learned the hard way that any crops or trees you had placed inside a planter box will automatically disappear once you place them in your inventory. So yeah, in other words, I had to restart the day. I made sure to move the boxes to a different location this time, and about half an hour later I was done with the new layout. It looks even more cramped inside the workshop now, but at least I was able to place some of the planter boxes on this cute little balcony that came with the expansion. There's also a second room inside the house now, which I'm gonna use for most of my chests. 76 marks the day of the annual Harvest Festival. I've been looking forward to this all season long, since this was another event that I've never participated in, and I was feeling rather confident about the crop competition until I wasn't. So remember when I bought the giant crop seeds from the mysterious man during summer? Yeah, they weren't ready. They just weren't ready to harvest. I was mildly infuriated to say the very least, but there was nothing I could do about it. If I wanted to participate in the competition, I had to present something, so I took one of the few pumpkins that I had with me, which had been rotting away inside my chest for a couple of weeks now. This was beyond embarrassing. Everyone else had absurdly large crops to show, and I just had this puny, teeny tiny micro pumpkin. I felt a bit better once Emily placed Mr. Watermelon next to me, so I wasn't the only loser here. I think it goes without saying that I obviously didn't win anything at the competition, and later on, during the cook-off minigame, I also didn't win anything. I failed every single cooked dish. Every single one. Yeah, so all in all, the Harvest Festival was an absolute disaster. One good thing about this day was that I was at least able to finish the vehicle stop commission. Both the charge station and water tower were placed next to Siwa's house, and with that the south block construction had officially started. The 21st of fall marks everyone's favorite builder's birthday. Unfortunately, a builder never takes a day off, as Mayor Gale had a brand new special commission just for me, the Portia hot air balloon park, and of course I told him to leave it up to me. Gale already decided that he wanted the platform to be built in front of the duck pond, which is behind McDonald's farm, but first we had to wait for new diagrams. Throughout the day, people would run down to my workshop to drop off some presents, which is always such a nice touch. These would contain materials, cooked dishes, accessories, but mostly it was furniture pieces. I visited Carol at her shop the next day, where she told me that the new sewing machine was wonderful. So much so that she somehow learned to alter attributes on clothes. This finally unlocked the revise option, which allows me to upgrade my low quality gear. This was a high priority for me, since I've been running around with level 1 gear this entire time. There was no wonder that regular mobs did so much damage to me before. You don't have to pay any goals for the procedure, but I do need to provide the materials, and I also have to wait one in-game day. After I dropped off my hat, I mounted a new DD stop next to the future hot air balloon spot, and then I had a look at the new diagrams. To my surprise, I received 2,000 goals in my mailbox the next day, which were from none other than May. The Portia Times was officially profitable, and this was for the printing press that I delivered a while ago. The giant pumpkin and potato fruits were ready to harvest later, and I decided to save them for the next Harvest Festival, since crops cannot expire in this game. I hope at least, I actually don't know. I collected the new and improved deputy hat from Carol, which received a massive HP boost. I modified the pants next, and then I had a look at the commission board. Over the past couple of days, I've been busy with delivering building materials for the South Block project, and today there was only one single order remaining, which I've been avoiding since day 1. As you guys know, I've been really careful with what type of commission I accept, since the penalty for failing is simply way too high. But I didn't want it to leave it there either, since then Higgins might accept the job instead of me, so I ended up accepting it after all, which turned out to be a good thing in the end. The bus station diagram was much more simpler than I had anticipated, needing only a total of 4 different components. This might have been the easiest South Block commission so far, and conveniently it also gave the most amount of goals. Another day, another person in front of my workshop, this time it was Mint, asking me if I could set up a power supply for the South Block. At first we wanted to simply use another power station over there, but Mint said that this might be too much for the town to handle. So instead we were gonna try out wind-powered generators. While in town I picked up the improved deputy pants, and lastly I upgraded the jacket for more defense and stamina. It became clear to me that I really needed to make an effort and start befriending more people. That is, if I ever wanted to upgrade my yard again within the next 10 years. The next expansion would already cost me a very reasonable 90,000 goals. And yes, that is already with a discount on top. In order to get an even better price on land purchases, I needed to raise my friendship meter with Gale, and I was determined to make it happen.
Never expected you to give me this.
I was expecting to get the wind generator design from Petra the next morning, but for once she couldn't resume the research even with Merlin's help, as they were missing a vital piece of information, and that was how to get the rotation speed up to capacity. I didn't have any idea either, but she told me to consult Phyllis, who should know more about wind generators than we do. But upon asking her about the matter, she said that she wasn't able to help us either, as she no longer has any contact with her family. I don't know what any of that means, but that's what she said. Phyllis said that I could try asking Nora instead, because her family owns the electric company in Highwind. So I was off to the Church of the Light, I explained to Nora what I needed from her, and just as she was about to help me with my problem, Lee interrupted her and said that wind generators are corrupted technology. I mean, really, dude? Obviously, I find Lee's view incredibly stupid, but unfortunately this was a work-related matter, so I had to behave myself. Thankfully, Nora agreed with me on this one and said that she is well aware that we're doing this project for the benefit of Portia. She will inform Petra about the missing piece herself, which was really nice of her because usually I always have to run around and do everything myself. With that sorted out, I shifted my attention to the hot air balloon diagrams. I needed to make 3 of the balloons, and that's also why it took a couple of days to get all of the materials, but today I was able to finish the last one. And with that, the hot air balloon attraction was officially open. I collected my reward from Gale, who was more than pleased with the finished result, and he also mentioned that this would make an excellent date location. And he was correct. I tested out the brand new ride with my sweetheart Arlo, and this was amazing. Seeing Portia from above the clouds was such a cool experience. I wanted to test out if I could maybe bring Arlo inside the hazardous ruin with me while we're on a date, since I know that you were able to do that in Sandrock, and sure enough, upon entering the first level of Ingel's mine, Arlo was still there, right next to me. Might not be the most romantic date activity, but I needed all the help that I can get down here. He does occasionally get stuck on a fence here and there, but overall, this worked out really well. The boss at the end of the level was once again this robot that we already encountered, and I wanted to stand back and just let Arlo do all of the work, but I had to help him out a little bit. I was really glad that I came here because this gave me a brand new weapon as a reward, the Nova Sword. I'm well aware that this is Arlo's absolute favorite gift, so I'll be sure to hand it to him once I find a better weapon myself, that is. Day 83 and 84 were mostly spent assembling the new wind turbines. I also made sure to renew my wood delivery contract, and while there, I even upgraded it a second time. Renewing the contract reminded me about the fire-powered generator that I made a while ago. To be able to actually use it, I had to craft a few of those conductive wooden floorings and place them underneath my machines. I thought at first that this was one of the best machines to have in the entire game, as I was under the assumption that this 25 efficiency notice meant that my machines run at plus 25% more. But no, what it actually meant was that they only run at 25% instead of the usual 100. So yeah, it's kinda bad. Apparently the generator can only power 2 machines at 100% at the same time, which is absolutely not worth the effort. This thing needs a ton of different materials to craft. It's a shame really, because in theory this is such a neat little machine, but in practice it was just completely underwhelming. On to more positive matters. I was able to finish the last turbine later on, and these were placed on a more elevated area around the desert. With this commission completed, the south block had its very own power supply and was almost ready to open up.
We've got power.
To end this last day of fall, I wanted to take another stroll inside the hot air balloon, but it was actually closed due to the bad weather. So instead I just jumped around with my new llama friend until it was bedtime. Winter has officially arrived in Portia and it was looking hella cozy outside. God damn, this game looks beautiful. As always, when the season changes, I had the monthly workshop rankings waiting for me, and I am very happy to announce, yes, the Skyforge was now the #1 workshop in all of Portia. Suck it, Higgins! After that I wanted to hand Ginger a flower bouquet for her birthday, but she wasn't at home for once. By sheer coincidence, I spotted her inside the graveyard, but upon handing her the gift, she said that this wasn't a day to celebrate. Upon walking closer to Gust and Russo, it became clear to me that this was their mother's grave, who had passed away the day Ginger was born. I stayed with them for a little while, even though my llama was more than eager to go back to the workshop. I accepted one of the many long-haul bus commissions later, which are going to be the ones for the Portia and Sandrock route. I visited Petra for the new diagrams, and while waiting for those to come in, I enjoyed the scenery around town. The next morning it was not only snowing outside, but we also had a new visitor who arrived in a very interesting looking plane. I couldn't find whoever said plane belonged to, but I did learn that his or her name was Mally. The first of many buses was assembled within a couple of minutes. I dropped it off for Antoine and immediately accepted another one. I'm gonna be doing the same commission for like the next week or so. The South Block was officially open for business. Its main purpose is to serve as a smaller hub in between Portia and Sandrock. Though there is also a new shop that I can use as well, Yiyi's Motel. And I'm very sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Yiyi is the granny of the Hula brothers and she has a rather interesting shop. The South Block trading store offers a bunch of unique materials from all of the different cities around the region. Like the golden ginseng that I've been looking for comes from Tall Sky, or the ceramic jug from Sandrock, which was probably handmade by Amira herself. I bought 2 pieces of ginseng and also the electric chainsaw for more efficient wood cutting. Later that day I crafted my first fish display. I unlocked this diagram quite a while ago and I kinda forgot it existed. As you can probably guess, this allows me to place fish in there, and I read online that you can even breed fish once you have the display set up. This is once again one of those mechanics that the game just never mentions to you. And as far as my knowledge goes, you simply have to place 2 fish of the same type in there and feed them on a daily basis. I use dough for most of the time, since it's very cheap to buy from Sophie's, but what I didn't know is that you really have to feed them every single day. I managed to catch 2 different kingfish the other day, and the nice thing about those is that every single kingfish, no matter the breed, sells for the same amount of money, which is 5,000 golds. Kinda wild. I do really hope that this pays off in the future, as I had not been successful with this method within the upcoming 24 days. On day 87 I had enough steel plates to make an advanced animal trap. This got placed on the same spot along with the required bait, being apples, aroma apples, and of course the incredibly expensive golden ginseng. Same as yesterday, I spent a good chunk of my time fishing inside the desert, where I reeled in a second golden salmon king. I've made it a habit to talk with Gil every single time when I'm in town and handing him a multi-purpose tea table, as this is very easy to craft and one of his love gifts. The grind paid off that day as I finally reached friend status with him, granting me a massive 20% discount when expanding the yard, lowering the current price from the already reduced 90k to only 80k. I really do love the relation perk system in Portia, and I wish more games would implement a similar mechanic like this, since this encourages you to befriend everyone in town and not only the people that you like. While running around, I came across our mysterious aircraft pilot, Molly from the Flying Pigs. She has been sent here by the Alliance government to inspect the ruins around Portia. Molly assured everyone that there was no evidence of any leftover dangerous AI running amok, which I thought was really funny considering we just had a robot encounter the other day when we opened up the tunnel, but okay.
Everything's fine.
In order for Molly to safely inspect all of the hazardous ruins, she asked me to build a new lift for the Western Plateau, as it was impossible to get up there at the moment. I went to check on the animal trap after that. Sadly, it didn't catch anything, so I had to place another ginseng and hope it will work better next time. I crafted another fish tank for the golden salmon, and as I was walking outside of my house, I had yet another person waiting for me. Well, two actually. Sam was kinda just hanging around, and next to her was sweet little Dana, who came to introduce herself. She said that she lived down the road from here, which I thought was really odd because I've never seen this woman before. But in any case, Dana was doing a survey asking people around town if they needed ore deliveries, and obviously I said yes. She can only open up the old mine if the demand is high enough, so she's gonna inform me once she knows more about it. I started to work on the new lift for Molly, and then I spent the rest of the day inside the ruin because ironically I was almost out of ore at this point. Right on cue, I got the confirmation from Dana that she received an overwhelming support for her delivery idea. Before I can actually get any ore deliveries, I needed to help her set up a conveyor belt near the mine entrance. I finished the new lift for Molly and installed it at the right spot, and the map just got a little bit bigger. Now I was able to explore the Western Plateau. Here I can collect new materials in form of zeolite and igneous rocks. I shared the good news with Molly, and then I returned to my workshop where I started on the alloy frames for Dana. While picking up the finished bars from the furnace, I reached level 37, and with that I maxed out the business mind skill for an 8% sell price increase for all of my items. Day 90 was pretty much the same as yesterday, just gathering materials and also socializing in town. When I made my way back to the house, I had a very pleasant surprise waiting for me. The trap finally did its job and caught a cotton llama. One quick taming session later and the llama was all mine. The difference between this and the regular llama is that it already had all of his stats maxed out, meaning that I didn't need to train anything. And he was also a tiny bit faster. To be honest, I think I still prefer the horse over the llamas, but still, I was so hyped about this. I love how silly these guys look. Once again, if you have any name suggestions, then feel free to leave a comment down below. On Sunday I got a letter from Molly, who was once again asking for my assistance as there was a broken door in the ruin that she was unable to open. I really wasn't in the mood for combat right now, so that's something for later. Also, I was still more than busy with the commission from Dana. I wanted to get the ore delivery up and running as soon as possible. Day 92 I was able to finish the alloy frames, and that was only one out of 4 major components. I was enjoying my new ride whenever I had to go somewhere. Truthfully, the llama AI isn't exactly great. They tend to get stuck easily and jump into everything. Still, I loved riding around with them. Later that day, I completed the second and final alloy frame, mounted them next to the mine, and started to work on the actual conveyor belt. At this point, I only had to wait for a couple of my machines to finish, so in the meantime I made my way towards the Western Plateau, where I met up with Molly. The ruins seemed to have been some sort of old world lab, and there was a ton of these robo-dogs running around. I slowly but surely understood why Gale hired Molly in the first place, as she could easily one-shot the enemies in here, which was so satisfying to look at. She does get interrupted by every single minor attack, but as soon as she jumps into the air, it's game over for every living being around her, or I guess AI in this case. Eventually we found the locked door she was talking about in the letter, and I had to install 2 entire advanced engines to get this thing working again. Behind that locked door was an old computer that somehow was still intact. We couldn't do anything with it though, as it required a code for further usage. This triggered the alarm system in the facility, and as I was trying to find the exit, I accidentally ran into a not so suspiciously large and open room where a very angry pig was waiting for me. I was not prepared for this at all, but it didn't even matter because I just let my new bodyguard take care of the sow. I mean, seriously, look at the damage she's doing. She annihilated this poor little piggy in less than 15 seconds. After we were done with exploring, Molly said that Petra might be able to figure out the code for the computer, as she had a feeling that this might be important for us. Petra did indeed figure out what the computer was for, and it seems to be a location identifier for all source AI. I had no idea what any of that meant at the time. I was completely clueless. The passcode was still a mystery, however she did mention that it required a physical key for the computer itself, and that I can find one while ruin diving. What ruin, you might be asking? Well, I have no idea since Petra didn't say anything specific. Today I was able to complete both the conveyor belt and the transmission piece. Once I picked those up, I immediately rushed over to the mine, and just like that, Dana's ore delivery service was open for business. I love how comically large this entire structure turned out. It kinda reminds me of something from Satisfactory. Dana thanked me for my effort and said that I will receive a basic ore delivery package for free. To be able to upgrade the contract, I had to wait a couple of days for her to set everything up properly. After the sun went down, we had a fireside meeting where Gale introduced us to our newest guest, Mr. Musa, the richest man in the Free Cities. The South Block and also the road project had been a massive success, and because of that, Musa decided to invest a generous amount of money to help us with a brand new harbor upgrade. And already 2 days later, the harbor makeover was in full swing. Before we get to that, it was time for another festival, the Snowball Battle. This was really tricky at first because the mouse sensitivity for aiming was way too high for some reason, but eventually I got the hang of it. The key to this game is to try and make every single snowball count, as the score is determined by how many shots you were able to land in total. Despite my bad aim, I somehow managed to win both rounds, and this gave me a bunch of spaghetti with hot sauce, one of the best rewards I could have asked for, since this is another loved item for Arlo. I mean, let's be real, who doesn't love spaghetti with hot sauce? After the event, I headed down to the harbor where Mint, Albert and Musa were waiting for me. They already had everything planned out for a new and improved harbor area. We're gonna need a lighthouse, warehouse and an upgrade to the wharf. There's going to be plenty of commissions for building materials over the next couple of days, but I was specifically tasked with the lighthouse first, since Albert said that this would make a good starting point. And speaking about upgrades, Dana had the ore delivery catalog set up by now, and I immediately upgraded it to level 3. The third upgrade already unlocked titanium ore, which was quite funny since I didn't even have access to that one yet. All of this was incredibly costly, over 30,000 golds, but it was worth every single penny. After another round of throwing snowballs, I checked the festival stall for any useful furniture pieces, but what I really wanted was the adorable Frosty set. Despite winning every single round so far, I only had enough badges for 1 out of the 3 items. I got the diagram for the lighthouse beacon earlier that day, which was assembled within a couple of hours. I handed it over to Albert, and then I was in the mood for a new outfit. Since I only had this one top from the Frosty set, I tried on all of the other DLC pieces that I had, but nothing really matched with the blue top. After a lot of back and forth, I ended up with a completely different outfit that I traded from Carol's clothing store. And yes, I also got a new haircut. I know this doesn't fit the winter theme whatsoever, but this was way too cute not to wear right away. We're jumping over to Monday morning, where I had an interesting conversation with Mr. Ack. He has been visiting my workshop every single day, and I mean every single day, since I placed down the Lara model in my yard. Because of that, I had enough friendship points now to hire him as a helper. Same as the wood and ore deliveries, I have to pay a monthly fee, and in return, he will help me around my workshop. However, as we know, Mr. Ack suffered a severe head wound and therefore memory loss, which meant I had to find data chips in order to unlock all of his features. So in other words, he's kinda useless right now. The chips can be found in the different ruins around Portia or from the research shop in exchange for discs. I already had 2 of those, one agricultural chip, which allows Ack to use fertilizer, and a husbandry chip, which enables him to feed my animals. In order for Mr. Ack to actually use anything around my house, I had to craft a so-called helper box for him, and once that was placed on the ground, he was able to start working. When I was in town earlier, I accepted another commission for the harbor expansion, and this time, Albert wanted me to make another crane. I think this was the 3rd time where he requested a crane from me. I don't know much about construction work, but I do know that cranes don't just disappear in thin air after a single project. Or maybe they do, I don't know. If I have any crane operators watching this, then feel free to enlighten me down below. Turns out that the harbor crane was actually a lot bigger than the other 2 that I'd made, since Petra had to come up with a whole new diagram for this. Which brings us to day 100. The research center had a bunch of new items in stock in the form of data chips for Mr. Ack, and I got the one for product collection and one for weather forecasts just because I thought it was kinda cute. With those upgrades, Ack became a whole lot more useful. He does occasionally get stuck on the furnaces, and I just realized that this is a really common thing in this game, but I could tell that he was trying his best. I also especially love how he only picked up one single item here, and then he immediately ran off into town for his lunch break. Like he didn't even place the item inside the box. Again, he's trying his best, okay? The item in question was a single piece of concrete, which I actually needed right at that moment. I did figure out a bit later during the day that for some reason the collected items will be placed inside the resource box and not inside the helper one. And at last I was able to finish the harbor crane for Albert. I rode down to the pier with my buddy Torrent, where I saw that the lighthouse was already up and running, and there was a new stone foundation where I was able to mount the crane. And that's gonna do it for part 2 of my time at Portia. I hope you enjoyed this one, and if you did, remember to leave a like, it really does help out a lot, and thanks for watching.